Do I know Over the Gun, and what's my favorite how to successfully fail? I do know Over the Gun. I'll talk more about him in a question later on. But my favorite HTSF, well, that would be like his tagline for his playthroughs. Um, I'm not sure that I have a favorite one actually. It might be Metal Gear Solid 1 because that's the first one that I saw of his. I also remember his Resident Evil 4 because I watched that in a kind of different way. What I would do is I would watch him do Chapter 1, then I'd play Chapter 1, and then watch him play Chapter 2, then I'd play Chapter 2 all the way through the game. So that was kind of cool. It was neat seeing that. Other than that, I don't know, he's had a lot of good ones, but I'll probably have to go with Metal Gear Solid 1 just because of the Nikita, the remote controlled missile launcher. Plenty of good moments in that. What was the first video game you ever beat? Not 100% or whatever, but the first video game you legitimately beat. That's a hard one. I actually wish I remember. I actually don't remember for sure my childhood gaming memories. I mentioned before, I do remember playing Barney's Hide and Seek on the Sega Genesis. And I remember I had a friend who laughed at me for having that game. I was like, what are you talking about, man? It's fucking Barney, man. It's hide and seek. Everybody loves hide and seek. So yeah, he was kind of giving me shit for that, but I was like, yeah, whatever. I do have an older brother, and he had a Super Nintendo growing up. And yeah, it must have had a regular Nintendo as well. We had one of those top loader ones, and I remember I always kind of wanted the VCR looking NES box. Eventually had one for a while, but now I'm back to the top loader. But anyway, I probably didn't beat too many NES games because they are rather difficult. But yeah, can't really think of the first game I ever beat. That would be an interesting piece of information to have, though. I do remember playing Shadowrun on the Super Nintendo, and I saved over my brother's save file, and he got pretty mad about that. But yeah, I really can't say the game I first beat. I will say that Legend of Dragoon was the first RPG that I legitimately beat, and felt pretty proud of myself about that. All the RPGs beforehand I had used Game Shark one way or another. Um, yeah, guess that's about the best answer I can give for that question. Could you imagine the amount of subscribers you have now when you first created the account? More? Less? I am quite surprised about the number of subscribers I have. When I first started this, I was thinking, it'd be cool to have like 200 subs. That'd be kinda neat. But now here I am over 9,000, so yeah. Pleasantly surprised. My favorite horror game, not including Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Hard to say. I went through a pretty extensive survival horror kick a few years ago when I was just playing nothing but survival horror games for a while. I played through Alone in the Dark, Clock Tower, which has a pretty damn good SNES game, surprisingly so. I played the one on the SNES, and then I think there's only one on the PS1, or at least only one that I played, which was kind of neat. It follows the same thing of a guy, a very small man, chasing after you with a giant pair of scissors, and you have to run around and hide, all the while solving puzzles and such. So that was kind of fun. I like stuff like that. Haunting Ground had a similar thing where you're being chased throughout the whole game, basically, and then you have to hide wherever you can. Or choose to fight, which is kind of dumb, as I was told anyway. So what else did I play? I might have revisited Dino Crisis, but I don't think so. That game was alright. A lot of people like Siren, but I just couldn't get into that game. It seemed too difficult or something, I don't know. I think maybe if I give it a legitimate shot, I might enjoy it more, I hope. But I just got nowhere in that game. Let's see. Can't even really think of many horror games at the moment. Or games that I actually consider to be horror games. Like, I wouldn't really put Dead Space on the list or anything like that. I've never really been a big fan of Amnesia or Slender. They just seem kind of boring to me. Especially Amnesia. Amnesia, all that was to me was like puzzle solving with the occasional, oh shit, there's a guy, I'd better go hide in this corner. But I can see the tension in, I keep wanting to say Splendor, but it's not Splendor at all. I can see the tension in that game, because I have played a bit of it, and there is something eerie in never knowing when Slender Man is going to show up. Those would be far from my favorite horror games. I did play Cold Fear recently, and that game's a horror game for all the wrong reasons. I was actually planning on doing a video of that, just a kind of speed through, poking fun here and there at the game. But back to the question, favorite horror game? Maybe Haunting Ground? I don't know, that game's pretty good, right? I feel like I'm not doing a very good job of giving solid answers for these questions, and I'm sure I'm overlooking more than a few good horror games that I played. Have I played LA Noire? If so, what are my thoughts on it? I was, like everyone else, blown away by the faces in that game. Just looked incredibly lifelike. Except for the children, something looked kind of odd about them. But I think as the game goes on, you just kind of get used to it, so it kind of just seems normal, almost. But my thoughts on the game itself, it was alright. Wasn't bad. When they talked about the interrogation scenes, I thought back to Phoenix Wright, and after playing the game, I would have liked it more if LA Noire had the intensity of some of those scenes in Phoenix Wright. Just like hands slamming on desks and pointing furiously, yelling objection, just stuff like that. I never did play any of the DLC for LA Noire. None of that reefer madness for me. But I don't know, I like that game. I'd go back to it. When you are in a movie theater, which armrest is yours? Both of them. Unless I'm with a lady friend, and then I'll give it up, because I'm a gentleman like that. Have you ever been in a fist fight? If so, how did you fare? If not, would you like to be? As a kid I was never in any real serious fist fights throughout high school or anything like that. My school was pretty tame, and I kinda just like kept to myself and my circle of friends, so kinda avoided drama as best as I could. Though I did like to watch fights, but in high school doesn't everyone? If someone says there's a fight and then every student available just rushes over to it. That happened several times in high school, and most of the time it was just a false alarm, which kind of sucked. I do remember though my friend, one of my best friends, got into a quote-unquote fight. I put it in quotes because it was probably the lamest fight ever. Basically what happened was, let's call him friend B, swung on friend A and missed, and then friend A put him in a headlock, and then they fell down or something. And that was like right by these stairs, so he was just like in a headlock for a couple of minutes. All the while, a semicircle of students rushed around to look at this spectacle. And then two teachers walked by. And the fight was so lame that they didn't even notice it. So they just kept going, and I laughed my ass off. And then eventually, I don't know, they got back up, hit each other a couple more times, and then that was that. Lamest fight ever. But I still remember that, and I still like to give my friend shit for that till this day. But back to the question, I feel like I've been saying that a lot as well. I did spar quite a bit with friends. I've always liked boxing, so sparring's pretty fun. I like to think I'm pretty okay at that. I mean, I know how to punch properly and all that, and I can pace myself. At least I used to. I'm very, very out of shape now. So, but yeah, now that it's warming up, I do plan on jogging again. But yeah, hopefully that answers that question. I was kind of all over the place on that one.